and welcome to the About Her Show. This is a show about trailblazing women where they get to talk about the journey of their lives, their ups and downs, challenges, whatever they have faced along the way. And apart from giving them a platform to talk about what they do, this is also a platform for women who are listening in to get inspired and motivated by the journeys of these women's and do something in life which they want to do. A lot of women have dreams, passions, ambitions, but for one reason or the other they are not able to do it. So we want them to get inspired and get out of whatever is holding them back, and eventually, we want to build a community of women who are there to support, empower, help, be there for each other, basically. So, a very, very warm welcome to you.
Thank you so much, Sangeeta. And, I'm honored to be considered a trailblazer. So that's really wonderful. I've seen some of the episodes and you featured a lot of very, very incredible women. So thank you for inviting me to be a part of the community.
You're more than welcome.
And I'm really looking forward to this conversation.
So am I. So am I. Okay, so just as an icebreaker, can you tell us a little
Sure.
bit about what you do, your journey, your early life, and whatever you're doing today? How did you start doing it?
Sure. Sure. So I run a consultancy. Well, I'm an independent consultant, so I don't have a big team or anything. I
Mhm.
run a consultancy called Windword, and it's a marketing and communications consultancy that focuses primarily on books. So
Okay.
I provide book publicity and book marketing services. I work directly with authors and help them create visibility for their books. And I also work with publishers directly at times when they require additional help or support when it comes to an important book. So yeah, things like that. But besides that, I have also worked on other projects.
Okay.
There's a Global Pluralism Award. There is, a whole lot of other things that I've helped to create visibility for. And I also run the Silent Book Club Delhi and Gurgaon chapter. And Silent Book Club is actually a global reading community that was started by these two American women.
Mhm.
And it now has, I mean, the last I knew it had over 500 chapters globally, but I think that's increased by a couple of hundred more. So, yes, very much part of that. And I do that because I'm very passionate about books, very passionate about reading. And I just want to build a community of readers who come together to read without pressure. And yeah, so that's essentially what I do.
That's absolutely wonderful because I'm a voracious reader and I look for every opportunity to read, be a part of a book club, and carry a book with me wherever you go. So the silent book club, the thought, the idea really, really fascinates me. So tell me, anything that you went through in your early life, your childhood, or the influence of your parents, which kind of made
Yeah.
you do what you're doing right now?
So, I think what I'm doing right now, in a way, just connects back to my childhood. So I'll start by telling you a little bit about, where I was born and brought up and so on, because I think that's really influenced where I am today, what I've become, who I am as a person.
Okay.
So I was born in Rabat in Morocco,
Oh,
and that's yes, everyone finds that really exotic.
yeah.
My father is a retired diplomat, and he was posted there, so I was born there.
Okay.
And my sister and I spent our childhood years outside India.
Okay.
We moved from Morocco when I was almost three to Germany for 4.5 years,
Okay.
and that's where I actually started my schooling. And German was my first language, in fact.
Oh.
Came back to India for about a year, followed by 3 years in Amman in Jordan, where I studied in an Arabic school first before I moved to an American school. And then after that, we moved to Stockholm, Sweden, where I went to two different international schools. So,
Okay.
from a very early age, I was exposed to these diverse cultures. And I think that really instilled in me a very deep appreciation for different people, customs, languages,
Mm.
traditions, ways of life and living, and made me really more aware as a person.
Mm-hmm.
And I think as far as my parents go, you know, we were always taught to be respectful and appreciate cultural differences. We
Yeah,
were taught to be kind. Um, and I think interacting with people from various backgrounds, of course, you know, it really broadens your perspective of the world.
absolutely.
And I think my experience over, through my childhood and because of all the travel that I did with my parents,
Mm-hmm.
um, made me more adaptable, helped me connect with people, and later on in life was also very helpful when I had to work with clients and organizations, across the world. So
Hmm.
authors from different countries, or I worked with different publishing houses where I had more of an international kind of communications kind of a role. So all that really helped. Or even in PR when I had to work with international clients.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that really helped, and it was instrumental in shaping me who into who I am today as a person.
I'm sure because this exposure and especially diverse cultures, when you get exposed to them, you learn how to, be with different people, how to handle, how to, because obviously you face so much in your life in that sense, met so many different kinds
Yeah,
of people. So obviously it becomes that much easier. So tell me, you've been
absolutely.
part of this industry for a long time and you help, people publish their books and you also help the publishing houses. So, any challenges that you faced in particular, and also if some of those challenges were because of your gender?
See, okay, just one correction. I don't help people publish their books. I come into the picture a little later. I'm not a literary agent. I'm
Okay.
an independent book publicist. So once the book is in press, once you know when it's going to be published and so on, that's when I start
Okay.
working on the book to create more visibility in different markets and,
Mm,
to different, bring it to the notice of different audiences. Um, I mean, the kind of challenges and all that I've faced, I think as far as gender goes, I have been fortunate enough to have not faced so much of a challenge.
mhm,
Yes, I did certain cases in my initial years. I remember the first job that I had
mm,
was at a well-known PR agency. And I think as far as gender goes, I think most women at some point or the other do face some kind of sexual harassment, and
mhm.
that happens because of gender, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not even talking about glass ceilings and things like that. I'm talking about just the very basic
Mm,
sexual harassment kind of a thing. So that has happened to me in a couple of places, and this was so many years ago when there were no posh committees, when things weren't taken, so seriously and so on.
mm,
But I have been again very fortunate to have worked in an industry where there are a lot of women.
mm,
I haven't really faced any of those challenges that many women face.
mm,
And also perhaps because I haven't really had to balance maybe, husband and kids. I'm a single woman. So I
mm.
haven't really had to balance that. So perhaps I've also been able to invest more time
Yeah.
in work, and therefore I've not come across that. But I think I've also been fairly fortunate
Mm,
in
mm,
not having had to face those. But yes, I mean, that sexual harassment piece has I have had to face that.
mm, mm, mm. So, if you go back and if you were to look back on your life, do you think you've
Mhm.
had a mentor or a role model, someone who inspired you and you wanted to maybe take a leaf out of their books?
Oh, that's actually very interesting. I think I've had mentors, maybe. There have been a few, but more than that, I think there's been one woman who's been absolutely really instrumental in, making me into the person that I am.
Mhm,
Uh, Strong feminist, somebody who champions, uh, equal rights. I'm not even talking about,
mhm.
gender equality or anything, but overall, just equal rights,
Yeah.
and has really introduced me to a whole lot of new things. And that's a very, very dear friend of mine. Her name is Kalpana.
Okay.
And, through the years, I still look to her when I need any kind of advice, when I feel I may not be right about thinking. about something in a certain way. But she's been very, very important. And in a sense, I think I would say she's been a mentor, not at the workplace,
Mm-hmm.
but my personal mentor. And that, of course, has helped me when it came to work, when it came to any difficult situations in my life.
Okay, that's great. Actually, I guess if you have someone like that, that really helps because we all
Yeah,
tend to kind of get stuck in different kinds of
yeah,
situations in life, and sometimes we just don't know what to do. So if you have
yeah,
someone who can guide you, or maybe just show you the way around, that can really help.
yeah.
Yeah.
But I have had, I mean, when I joined my first job in publishing, I had no idea what publishing entailed. And I think the kind of exposure that I got, and I think a lot of times when you're in the, right in the thick of things, you don't realize how supportive someone is being to you, right? A boss or whatever it is. It's only when you become a boss that you realize that there are so many more challenges to it.
Definitely.
So I have had a lot of people who have supported me.
Mhm.
It's been, I think, a balance.
Okay, okay, all right. So tell me, an author comes to you and they, like you said, their book is out there and they want to market it. Obviously they want
Right.
people to know about it. So
Sure.
can you share 3 tips on what would be
Mm-hmm.
the most effective way of marketing a book?
Oh, now that's a very difficult question, but because 3 tips are very
I
hard to
mean,
give.
top of your mind, what comes to your mind
Yeah,
immediately?
top of your mind is, I think, most important for authors, and I find that authors are so deeply involved in their books. And of course, they have to be, right? It is their heart and soul goes into it. But
Hmm.
I think what happens is they sometimes forget that there are many other authors out there.
Yeah.
Uh, and there are many other books out there.
Hmm.
So I think we need to, first of all, understand that there's a whole lot of competition out there. Secondly, I think they need to be very, very clear about who the book is aimed at.
Okay.
And third is they have to recognize that it's not, an easy space to be in. But, when it comes to tips, I am trying to think of what I can, what tips to give
Hmm.
anybody who's. But yeah, I think more or less you need to recognize who your audience is. You need to
Yeah.
recognize that there are other people out there. You need to be very, very clear and aware of what your, what we call in marketing terms, USP is. I
Okay.
think once you have a few of these things down,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, yeah, it just becomes more, it becomes easier to actually create something that is more focused and will help me as a marketing person, reach out to the right audiences.
Yeah. I think that's very, very important. I mean, I may have written something, but I have to know who is it targeted at? What is so
Yes,
different about my work as
absolutely.
compared to somebody else's? Yeah, that is
Sorry,
something
please.
that works, everywhere in life, because there are like,
Yeah.
I mean, so many people out there who are doing similar things. So how do you stand out? That I think is important.
Exactly. Exactly. It's the same case with me, right? There are many other people like me out there who are providing publishing, consulting
Mm.
services and all. But of course, there's something different that I have to bring to the table.
Yes.
And yeah, and the same goes with anything else.
Mm.
But, and yes, I mean, the tip is, I would say the biggest tip is also please be willing to invest a lot of time in the marketing of your book,
Mm.
because it a lot of time breaks my heart to see books, that really deserve to be read not getting the kind of attention because perhaps um, somebody hasn't had the time to really put it out there.
Yeah, yeah. That is really sad. Yeah.
I know.
So, we all have, the personal side of our lives, and then we have the professional side. And sometimes, it becomes difficult to balance the two. And well,
Mm.
we are part of a society where kind of, expected to know it all and do it all. So, how do you do that in your life? How do you balance the two sides?
Right. So, I have been, I guess, like I mentioned earlier, I'm a single woman.
Mhm.
So I don't have too many roles For me, it's about, like you said, there's the professional me, the personal me. It's more about being, a friend, a daughter, and things like that. And those relationships tend to be, I think, a little more flexible.
Yeah, yeah,
I think, when you have children, when you have a husband, when you have in-laws, and I'm talking from the point of view of a woman,
yeah, yeah,
because even today, a lot of that responsibility to manage those relationships,
yeah.
falls upon a woman. So, I think I have over the years figured out a way to be able to balance it.
Okay.
I think that's one of the reasons why I went independent as well,
Mm-hmm.
and where I don't think I want to go back full time, because I do want enough time to devote to my personal life,
Yeah, yeah.
and yeah, and not just be focused on work, which continues to be incredibly important to me.
Mm.
But I think it's not easy for anybody. It's not easy for any woman, and but in my case, like I said, I don't have multiple roles,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
therefore I think it's a little easier for me, and there I allocate time
Mm.
during the day to certain things. And one thing that I've made sure of is, I, you know, I think every 6 months I do try and take a break. My Sundays are sacrosanct, and
Okay.
I keep those aside for personal life.
Mm.
And so, yeah, I mean, that's how I manage.
So I think
I
discipline.
hope I've answered your question and not
Yes,
just,
yes. Because
given
I've
a very
what I
vague answer.
no, no. So what
Yeah.
I've gathered is that yes, you have to be disciplined, you have to be organized, and at the same time, you have to take breaks also, because otherwise, I think the sheer monotony, or that
Yes.
doing those things again and
Yeah.
again every day, I mean, you just
Yeah.
kind of get sick and tired of it. So you need to refresh it, a little bit, and taking breaks definitely helps. Yeah.
What helps me really is, I think, if there's something that I really want to do, if there's something that requires doing, I make sure I just kind of block it in my calendar, and then I work backwards from there.
Great, great. So
Yeah.
that's actually a great tip.
Yeah. Yeah. So time management is very, very, I think that's for everyone.
That's for everyone.
But yeah, so time management is important, if you want to really balance your different roles out.
Correct, correct. So we all face setbacks in life, sometime or the
Yeah.
other. I mean, and there are ups and downs. So how do you, in the light of these kind of setbacks, or the low moments, how do you stay motivated and resilient? I mean, like, okay, ready to face another day.
Right. It's not easy. It's not ever easy. And I don't think there's a single person who finds it easy to stay motivated and charged up, all the time.
Yeah,
Uh, but it's, like that old saying, when life gives you lemons, you make, lemonade.
yeah, yeah.
And, the way I look at it, when something happens that makes you feel low, or, there are challenges that you come across, you just have two options.
Mm,
Either you keep wallowing in whatever has happened to you in self pity and things like that, or you just choose to carry on. It's not easy and it takes time, but that's the way I try, and that's the way I try and take it. And
mhm,
that's not to say that I'm always happy and cheerful and smiling. And a lot of times what I do is I do allow myself a certain period of time, which
mm,
I define, to feel low or unhappy or to crib. And I tell myself, look, it's okay to feel unhappy, it's
yeah.
okay to feel low, it's very normal. But when the time comes, I mentally kick myself in the backside, and I'm just like, okay, enough
Mm,
of feeling low and whatever. There's a lot more, there's a lot of other great things that are happening in your life. So
yeah,
this has happened, forget about it. And it's also very, very important to be surrounded by, I think, friends and family,
yeah,
and who really help you get back up when you're feeling down.
yeah.
Who allow you to feel sad if need be, or feel low,
Mm,
but who are also willing to be there and kick your butt
mm.
when it's needed.
Yeah, you do
So
need.
Yeah.
That's
And I also always look around, and there's always someone or the other who's facing, as tough a time, if not a tougher time.
Hmm.
And everyone has challenges. I mean, just look around. You look at, my house help, for example, my cook, for example. She
Hmm.
leaves at 6 in the morning. In the heat, she'll cycle to three houses.
Yeah.
She goes back. So when you think of things like that, and you also have to remind yourself of all the privileges that you have,
Yeah. Right.
right? So I try and do that and try and stay positive.
That's, I think, very, very important. Staying positive, that glass
Yeah.
half full, half empty thing. Because obviously, nobody's life is perfect and it cannot be. But you have to focus on the good things and believe that this too shall pass.
Yes,
There is a
absolutely.
bad day,
And
tomorrow's going to be
yes,
better.
yeah. And if you look at your life or anyone else's life,
Yeah.
bad phases may stretch really long for some people or for you. But I think what was that song, that Talat Mahmood song, I think, जब गम का अंधेरा घेरा है समझो कि सवेरा दूर नहीं.
Yes,
So
yes.
exactly. So, the night may be long, but, the sun will rise tomorrow.
Absolutely. It has to. That's the law of nature, and one has to believe that. Okay.
Exactly.
So, Rachna, girls around you, you see these young girls around us who are on the threshold of their lives, 18, 19-year-olds.
Right.
And, personal and professional lives, both they are on the threshold of them. So, is there any piece of advice that you would like to give them? Any, say, tips that you feel, something that you could have done when you were growing up and you think these girls should keep it in mind?
Yes, I think it's very, very important for every woman to have a career.
Yes.
Make sure they are financially independent and secure, and that they learn to manage their own money. Because I think once you have all that, once you have that confidence, I've seen that. I've seen that with a lot of women who aren't able to get away, a lot of women who aren't able to do anything independently only because of financial constraints, because they don't have that financial independence.
Mhm.
But I think, yeah, always learn to rely on yourself.
Okay.
Um, yeah, make sure you have a career
Mm-hmm.
and be financially independent and secure, and learn to manage your money. I think these things are very, very
They
important.
are very important, very critical, because I think once you have
Mm.
that freedom in terms of, the independence of having your own money, it's a whole new world out there. I mean, you may choose to be with people, that's not the point, but then you can make choices, you can take decisions based on what you want to do and not what
Yes.
others want you to do. I think that is
Yes.
something which most girls should keep in mind. Okay.
Yes. You have a voice then.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. And a voice that matters. I think that is something that one has to keep in mind. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So we've of course come a long way, and women have come a long way. Societies also have come a long way, but we still, if we look around us, we find that women still face several challenges, several barriers. So,
Right.
what do you think are still the biggest barriers that women have to face when it comes to their independence, their liberty, their freedom?
I think one is, like I said, I think it's financial independence.
Mm-hmm.
I
Okay.
think that is the biggest barrier, because a lot of women, I've seen a lot of women grow much stronger and create their own, build their own independent lives once they have had that, financial security.
Yeah.
But otherwise, I think, I mean, it's society, it is still the kind of society that we are living in.
Mm.
And I think it's also how we are. Taught to be women by women also. I find that actually the biggest challenge. You're living in a patriarchal society and all, but you would think women who have, faced their own challenges,
Yeah.
they would be very, very supportive of other women.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, I think, we really need to start recognizing that besides being a patriarchal society, you also need enough women to step forward and support other women.
Yeah, that is for sure.
I'm
Because
not even getting into the education part of it or the really, the bigger problems and so on and so forth.
hmm, hmm.
But because there are too many to name.
Yeah, yeah. But I think the way to deal with each one of them would be if we are there for each other. Because we,
Yes, I
as
think
women, go through similar kind of experiences, similar kind of situations. So that can help us guide other women. And I think that is where,
yes.
we should, because challenges will always be there, barriers will always be there. We have to learn how to face them and be there for each other. So, which brings me to my next question. So, what role do you think women's voices and perspectives can play in changing the narrative? By voices and perspectives, I mean when you actually voice them. How can that
Hmm.
help in changing the narrative?
Uh, I'm just thinking, can you maybe, just talk a little bit more about what you mean when you
So
say
what I
how
mean
can
is
the,
like we have these
where,
so we have these kind of platforms. So we have so many such women centric
yeah,
platforms nowadays where women get to come and share their journeys, talk about it. So
yeah,
what I want to know is that, will this help, the fact that women can come out and talk and they do this? So not only are they sharing their own experiences, but somewhere their experiences ring a bell for some other women, resonate with other women. So how can this collectively help to change the narrative in terms of, the society that we live in and what is expected out of
yeah.
women?
So, no, I think it can collectively definitely uh, help slowly, bring about that change.
Yeah.
Because the way I look at it, a lot of these women need an outlet,
Mm,
need to be able to have these kind of conversation, understand that they're not alone in this.
yeah.
And also, I think, um, just kind of through these conversations also start bringing about that change in their own homes, in
Yes.
their own lives.
Mm,
And I think it's no, it's something that will happen over a period of time. But
mm,
I think the more conversations we have, the more experiences that we share, the more we help women understand how they can, cope with this, why it's important to bring about this change.
mm.
I think that's how slowly, the narratives will change.
Yes, because I think that first of all, we have to come and voice it. We have to say
Yes.
what is it that we don't like or what is it that we cannot accept. Because you cannot expect the other person, even if they know that it is not right, you have to voice it. Nobody is a mind reader. And if somebody is getting an advantage out of you, why will they
Hmm.
try to rectify the situation for you? So if I am feeling the pain, I have to say that I'm feeling the pain. And when
Yeah.
I normalize that, when I say it, then maybe, 5, 6, 10 other women will also get the courage to say that. So you're right. So that is how slowly but surely, I
Yeah.
think we will get there. Yeah.
And I think the more women who get together, and I see that as happening, as having happened in the last few years, there are a lot more women support groups. There are a lot of, women communities. I'm part of one called Leap Club.
Okay.
And, it's a women's networking forum, and they do a whole lot of things. But, uh, you know, they also have these city chapters and so on. And you'll be surprised at the kind of conversations that happen
Okay.
on those groups, the
Mm,
kind of exchanges that women have, women who form these support groups. And
mm,
I think all that slowly, even if it's in small segments or in small numbers, I
mm.
think that's how change begins.
Yes, yes, yes. So right now it may be a drop in the ocean, but ultimately all these drops collectively will make that ocean. So yeah, one has to stay, upbeat and positive about it. Okay.
And I think so,
Yeah.
even the next generation, I'm digressing a little from your question, but I think also when I said, it has to start from home, but even, when women within their home are teaching their sons and daughters both about, equality, about being equal, and, creating the same, so to speak, a level playing field. I
Mm.
think all those things make a huge difference.
Yes, absolutely. That is very, very critical, very crucial. So nowadays, you see, if you look around us, there's a lot of conversation happening about mental health, mental wellness, and all of those things. Do you think women's mental health gets the equal amount of importance as men's or children's or whatever? Or we tend
So
to
I think
overlook women's mental
I
health?
think mental health just doesn't get enough attention
Okay.
overall. In India, irrespective of whether you are a man, woman, child, whatever, I think the number of therapists, the number of psychologists, the number of psychiatrists in India um, is really, really low. Is
Hmm.
really, really low. So overall, I think it's a challenge.
Hmm.
And but I think in women's cases, I think women themselves don't realize a lot of times that they are going through any mental health issues, mental health crisis,
Hmm.
right? So perhaps, I mean, I really don't feel I'm qualified to comment on this because I don't have any data, I don't have anything like that, but I do know
Just for
for
the
a fact that
professional.
overall, yeah, overall, I think mental health is still something that people don't talk openly about, though that is slowly changing. And
So, what I meant was that when it comes to mental health issues, do you think women
right.
have a greater need for those issues to being addressed because we face so much in lives? So, the different roles and responsibilities, the expectations that are there. And like you said, most of the times women don't realize they're going through it because I think all those roles, responsibilities, expectations are like you just kind of internalize them. You feel that I have to do it. So, on account of that, I mean, that do you think they have like greater such issues to face as compared to men?
I am not entirely sure about that.
Okay.
I'm not entirely sure about that. Yes, women have a lot more on their plates, but women are also fabulous multitaskers
Yeah,
as compared to men. But I think men have their own challenges too.
of course, definitely.
you know Men have their own challenges. There are people from different communities who have other kind of challenges. They have other kind of mental trauma that they are facing, and so on and so forth. So I again I'm not entirely sure
All right.
whether women, yeah. So like I said, I don't want to really comment on that because I don't have any data.
Mm-hmm.
But they definitely have a lot more challenges, but there are men who equally have, as many challenges, but um, those may be different kind of challenges.
Okay, all right. So, Rachna, a number of people nowadays, when they reach their early 40s, late 40s, or even later than that, or maybe earlier, they start looking to do things which are completely different from what they'd been doing before that. So, suddenly you
Right.
see a corporate executive who now wants to, start hiking. And seriously, not as just a hobby, maybe just leave what they were doing and do something totally different, taking to writing or, singing or whatever it may be. So, which
Hmm.
I like to term as midlife rebooting. So, what are your
Yes.
views on that? Why is it happening? And is it good or bad? What do you think about it?
No, I think it's good. I think each person should do whatever makes them happy. If
Yeah.
you feel you've had enough of one thing and you really want to pursue something
Mm-hmm.
at any point of time in your life, just
Yeah.
go for it. As long as you're able to do it, as long as um, you know you feel it's the right choice you've made,
Yeah.
I'm all for it. I made two career changes in my life,
Mm-hmm.
and one was in my 30s, not in my 40s, but in my 30s. I
Mm-hmm.
actually started my publishing career when I was, I think, maybe 34, 35.
Okay. Okay. All
So
right.
yeah. So I was in corporate PR and I started, and the years that I worked in corporate PR, I just didn't enjoy it.
Mm.
And I was in Bombay, moved back to Delhi, and thought it was time I, decided what I really wanted to do. Because I certainly didn't want to spend the next 30 odd years of my life doing something that I absolutely disliked. I'd always been fond of reading
Mm.
since my childhood. Um, and I think because of that, I got this opportunity to for a short-term project at the British Council many years ago.
Okay.
Helping them with a women writers project,
Okay.
and I started enjoying working with publishers, and that's where I got picked up by Penguin.
Okay.
And that was, yeah, so it was completely from corporate PR to publicity and marketing and publishing. So it
Mm.
was quite a change. So that was the first time I made a change. And the second time round was, when I decided to go independent.
Okay. Okay.
So, yeah, when I decided to go independent and, of course, continue working in publishing. But I think, that's not to say if it's something that's completely different from, what you've been doing.
Uh-huh.
Um, I think it's great as long as you really enjoy what you're doing, as long as it's something that works for you, I am all for it.
Okay. So, do you think we are at a considerable advantage as compared to maybe our parents who could never think of doing that? I mean, maybe they couldn't think or they wouldn't think, I mean, whatever it was. So, do you think we are at an advantage in today's
Oh,
time?
absolutely. Absolutely. I think my parents never had a chance, and my dad never had a chance. My mother's been a homemaker. That's also because, we were outside India. Part
Hmm.
of being in the embassy meant that she
Yeah.
couldn't really work. But I think for my dad, both my parents moved to India from Pakistan.
Hmm.
Um, my dad especially had a tough time.
Hmm.
They had money as children, so on. So, whatever opportunity they got, whatever jobs that they got, I think they could never really think about. Uh, I don't think they even ever thought of something called, oh, this is my dream job, or this is, my aspiration, or whatever it is. At that point of time,
Hmm.
you didn't really have too much of a choice. Plus, I think the options were also very limited.
Yes.
Today you can become a baker, you can uh, do crochet, you can crochet,
Yeah.
you can become a wedding photographer, you can become, I mean, there are just so many options out there which just weren't possible earlier.
Yeah.
But yes, absolutely, I think I really respect my parents for, all that they did for us, which allowed me this freedom to choose what
Yeah.
I wanted to.
Yeah, that's actually very right.
Mm.
They gave us that freedom because they got us to this level where I think financially, emotionally,
Yeah,
even otherwise we are stable. And of course, now we're living in times where the world is more flexible, more accepting, and there's so much exposure. You look
yeah,
around you, like you said, there are
absolutely.
so many diverse things that people are doing. I mean, if you really were to look for something to do, I'm sure you'll get an idea from somewhere because there's so much happening around us. Yeah.
Yeah, I think sometimes you're also overwhelmed by the
Yeah.
choices that you have now.
Yeah.
And I think that's a challenge that, the really young generation is also facing.
Correct.
Because when there were 10 choices, you knew this is it. But
Yeah.
now you have like thousands and thousands of choices. And I think that adds to their confusion.
Absolutely. It can't be easy for them. Okay.
It's not at all easy for them.
So, looking ahead,
Mhm.
what are your personal or professional aspirations for the next maybe 5 years, 10 years? Where do you see yourself doing? I mean, where do you see yourself and what do you see yourself doing?
I actually don't think that far ahead.
Okay.
Uh, But I think I'm going to continue to work for some more years for sure. I don't really have any retirement plans as of now.
Okay.
Um, I think what I really want to start doing more of, and some of it I've started with the Silent Book Club, is in being involved a little bit more in, building back the reading habit, maybe working with children,
One.
um, you know, yeah. I mean, that's what I would like to do.
Uh-huh.
I would, I think for many, many years to come, I'd still like to continue being associated with books and reading. And yeah, so I haven't thought that far ahead, but um, I'm also open to any new opportunities coming my way, any new idea that strikes me that I take up.
Okay, okay, great. So this is just after my heart. I mean, anything to do with books. I also just love the idea. I mean, whatever it is, it doesn't really matter as long as books. That's the key word for me. Okay.
Great.
So now we come to the rapid fire. So
Oh
5
my gosh,
questions,
embracing
answers.
myself.
No, no, not very difficult ones, just related to what you do. Okay. So
Okay.
first one, your take on ebooks. You love them or you hate them?
I love books. It doesn't matter what format they're in.
All right. Okay. So
I
what?
read books.
Oh, you read books. Okay.
Yeah.
Next. What is your favorite book to movie adaptation? If there is one.
I. That's a very, very tough one. That has probably got to be the toughest. So, you know, it's not book to movie, but it's book to series.
Okay.
So I think this was 1986 or 96, I don't remember which year,
Mhm.
but the Colin Firth adaptation of Pride and Prejudice. I
Oh,
think that was very, very true to the book.
okay.
But in terms of imagination and I think what they've created out of it, I think the Harry Potter movies, though
Yeah.
of course, missed out on a lot because you really can't capture everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think the way they translated it into this fabulous universe and movies, I think that was also great. But
Mm.
I think for me, immediately I think of Pride and Prejudice, the Colin Firth one.
Okay. Great. Okay. Next. If books were a flavor, which flavor would your favorite book be?
Chocolate.
Oh, lovely. All right. Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
Next.
basically it's coffee chocolate books. They
Great.
all go
I
together.
think I would
Yeah,
also say the same thing.
great.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, what's your go-to comfort read?
Ooh, I like reading classic crime. That's my comfort reading.
Okay. Okay.
So, and most recently, what I've really, really enjoyed is Richard Osman, the
Okay.
Thursday Murder Club series,
Okay.
because that is that kind of, classic crime where you really build the characters, where there's not much, you know, gore and blood and all, because the last few years there have been a lot of these, psycho thrillers and all, and I just don't enjoy those.
Neither do
For
I.
me, it has been a nice, flowing, gentle, classic crime.
Mm.
And then there's this genre called, I think, cozy mysteries, which
Yes.
are read and forget it.
Hmm.
So, when or I just love anything that flows really well. Fiction.
Okay. All right. And now we come to the last one.
Mhm.
If you were to write a book about your life, what would the title be?
Mm, okay, that's interesting. I haven't really. How about sugar and spice and a few things nice?
Oh, that's lovely. That sounds so good. Okay, all right. Maybe this is going to be okay, the tagline of your show, sugar and spice and maybe something nice.
And a
That's
few things nice. Yeah,
few
I
things nice.
guess.
Okay, that's really cool. Okay. So with this, we come to the end of the rapid fire round and of course the conversation. So thank you so much, Rachna, for being on the show. It was absolutely wonderful. New insights, new ways of thinking, and but at the core, which I always believe is that all women are very, very similar. We face similar kinds of issues and challenges in life. So that's the common thread which keeps us all together. But it was
Yes.
great talking to you. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you so much, Sangeeta, for having me. It was absolutely wonderful talking to you. And, I would love to meet you for a cup of coffee and read a book together.
Yes, yes, yes. That sounds absolutely
Lovely.
wonderful. Yeah, yeah.